Hey guys, I'm going to do something a little bit different than I have been doing. If you've seen my other videos, they're all pretty similar, and essentially we're just spreading the word on what our treasure hunt's going to look like. Just to recap that, 1,000 people from every state, a $5,000 Bitcoin wallet in every state. When you compete against 1,000 people in your state, if you win, you win the $5,000 in Bitcoin. It costs $50 to enter that. The kicker is, though, the 50 winners of each state will go on to compete for another wallet containing $1 million worth of Bitcoin. Some of the details I haven't shared as much. I'm just going to highlight some of the differences between our treasure hunt style and, Forrest Fenn or John Collins Black or Justin Posey. Those guys all, dropped a poem, dropped a book. So yeah, you didn't have to pay them $50 to join their hunt, but you probably had to pay $50 to buy their book or to buy, multiple, right? In the case of Justin Posey, for instance, there's the physical book, the ebook, and what is it? There's one more thing anyway, and you can buy them all, and theoretically, according to things he said, they all might contain something different. Anyway, the other major difference is, those were designed to take a long time to solve. I mean, it took 10 years to solve Forrest Fenn's, and obviously we don't know how long it's going to take on these others, but it seems similar. Certainly with John Collins Black, you're going to have, even if one gets found, it's going to take years to find all of them. Each of our treasure hunts, so essentially 51 treasure hunts, right? One in each state, and then one final hunt. So 51 hunts. They're really designed to be solved and found in a weekend. So we will likely release the clues on a Friday, and if it's not found by Sunday, by the end of by Saturday night, let's say, then Sunday morning we would probably release another set of clues. The clues will go out to our solvers or our treasure hunters via email. So if you've joined that particular treasure hunt, that's how you're going to get the clues, and we'll know you've solved it and you've found the wallet when you email us certain details, obviously photos of you at the location with the prize and some other details that will be encapsulated with the prize. And you've got to do that because that's when we're going to give you the seed phrase to be able to unlock that wallet. So, nobody who just stumbles upon that will be able to win that. Not that we would expect anybody to just stumble upon it, but let's just say hypothetically that, somebody we weren't aware of saw us hide it, which I don't think is likely, but, and they weren't even registered for the hunt, but they went and pulled it up. Well, they're not going to win anything. So it's going to require an email to come to us from a registered email, someone who's registered for the hunt, and paid for the hunt. And that's how they're going to get the seed phrase. So another thing I'll mention, I've talked about this before, and I'll probably put out another video highlighting this, but in my opinion, just my opinion, there are at least two. I'll talk about these two elements to a good riddle. Number one, hard to solve, right? Obviously if it was easy to solve, it wouldn't be fun, it wouldn't be interesting, it wouldn't be a good riddle. But the second part, and this is the part where I think Forrest Fenn fell way short. Jury's still out on these other guys, but the other element of a good riddle is that once solved, either if you solve it or if somebody tells you the correct solve, there's no question in your mind it's right. In other words, like let's say with Forrest Fenn's, there were, certainly thousands of theories on different solves, right? And when it was finally discovered, and eventually, Fenn's girlfriend released that YouTube video, and at least according to her, this was what Fenn had instructed as what was the solve. This is how you found it. she repeatedly had to apologize because as she's doing it, she's like, hey, don't shoot me. I'm just the messenger. This is what he said. He said, put in below the House of Brown, and that just means cross the river just below where this picture was taken in front of the rock with his dad holding a stringer of brown trout. And that's just one example. She did that throughout the solve. And the point there is, if you had 10 brilliant minds and brought them together and you lined out before them 10 different solves, including the correct one, if every other solve you presented to them is just as likely in their mind, then that's not a good riddle. I mean, this should be such that once, let's say if you did that with 10 brilliant people and you presented 10 different solves and one of them being the correct one, they should all gravitate to the correct one. Now, again, that doesn't mean it should be easy to solve. That just means if you're given the answer, you connect the dots and you're like, that's it. And I'll give some examples in another video of that type of riddle where, here's a riddle and you could rack your brain. It could be really hard. You can't figure it out. Either you eventually figure it out, or if I tell you the answer, then it clicks like, clearly that's the right answer. No question. And Fens absolutely did not do that. Was it fun for people to try to solve his and to go out searching? Absolutely. And that's what he was going for. He was going for getting people out there into the wilderness. Those who followed Jack Stoof's, I guess, I don't know where all this came from, but it's widely known that he utilized other resources other than just the poem and the book and Forrest Fenn's interviews and those types of things. Forrest repeatedly said, all you need to solve it is the poem. Like, you could just solve it with nothing else. Absolutely not. There's not a chance in the world that if you would have given that poem to, 10 million different people with no other context, without the book, without Forrest Fenn's interviews, and said, find the location just based on the poem, nobody would have ever found it. There's no way. Jack Stoof, who eventually found the treasure, my understanding is he even went to the point of, so in the book, this book here, there were certain quotes that Forrest included that came from other books he'd written. Well, Jack Stoof went and bought the other books that he had written and compared the quotes, and he found differences, things that were removed or things that were added, and it was those things that really narrowed it down and enabled him to solve that. My understanding, anyway. Just for instance, you say begin at where warm waters halt. Obviously, there's all kinds of places in Yellowstone where there are hot springs and places where warm water is flowing into cold water. I mean, I can't imagine how many of those there are in Yellowstone. And so it was through that methodology that I just mentioned that Jack was able to pinpoint Madison River, Madison Junction. And so, again, I think Forrest fell way short. I don't think his riddle was officially solvable. You could come up with thousands of theories and go search them all and eventually maybe stumble upon the right one, but it wasn't any more correct from an objective standpoint than, one of the other potential solves, right? So this is getting long. I don't know if anybody's going to make it all the way through this. If you do, thumbs up to you. I appreciate it. And I'm going to be putting out a few more of these types of videos to clarify how our hunt's going to work.